the path of meditation that the Buddha traversed. Before enlightenment, the Buddha recognized that the path of renunciation was peaceful, yet he did not feel inspired. When he deeply contemplated the dangers of sensual desires, the inspiration for renunciation arose within his mind, and he realized, this is peace. Subsequently, he entered and dwelled in the first jhana. While abiding in the first jhana, perceptions associated with sensual desires remained present, and at that time, these perceptions became a disease, causing suffering. The Buddha then ceased applied and sustained thought, attaining the second jhana. However, he did not feel inspired or liberated. When he reflected deeply on the dangers of applied and sustained thought, inspiration and liberation arose, and he knew this is peace. Yet, while dwelling in the second jhana, perceptions linked to applied and sustained thought persisted, and at that moment, these perceptions were a disease. Next, the Buddha abandoned joy and attained the third jhana. Initially, he did not feel the inspiration or liberation of the third jhana, so he contemplated the dangers of joy thoroughly. Then he experienced inspiration, peace, and liberation, knowing this is peace. After some time abiding in the third jhana, perceptions associated with joy still emerged, and at that time, these perceptions were a disease. The Buddha then relinquished both joy and pleasure, attaining the fourth jhana. At first, while dwelling in this jhana, he did not feel inspired, settled, or liberated. After fully contemplating the dangers of pleasure, he felt the inspiration, peace, and liberation of the equanimity of the fourth jhana, realizing this is peace. While abiding in the fourth jhana, having abandoned pleasure and pain, perceptions tied to the abandonment of pleasure remained active, and to him, these perceptions were a disease. Then, the Buddha transcended perceptions of form, completely ending them and ceasing to attend to perceptions of diversity. At that point, he attained the infinity of space concentration. Initially, upon achieving this meditative state, he did not feel inspired or liberated. He contemplated the dangers of forms, and upon fully recognizing these dangers, he experienced inspiration, peace, and liberation in infinity of space, knowing this is peace. After some time dwelling in the infinity of space concentration, perceptions associated with forms persisted, which he regarded as a disease, akin to suffering arising in someone who is happy. The Buddha then fully abandoned the infinity of space concentration and attained the infinity of consciousness concentration, where consciousness is infinite. At the outset of this attainment, he did not feel inspired, peaceful, or liberated in the infinity of consciousness. He then reflected on the dangers of the infinity of space concentration, and upon fully realizing these dangers, he felt inspired, peaceful, and liberated in the infinity of consciousness concentration. However, perceptions linked to the infinity of space remained present, constituting a disease to him, like suffering emerging amidst happiness. Next, the Buddha completely abandoned the infinity of consciousness concentration and attained the nothingness concentration, knowing that there is nothing. Initially, upon achieving this jhana, he did not feel inspired, peaceful, or liberated. He contemplated the dangers of the infinity of consciousness concentration until he fully recognized the perils of that meditative state, after which he felt inspired, peaceful, and liberated in the nothingness concentration. After some time dwelling in the nothingness concentration, perceptions associated with the infinity of consciousness remained active, resembling the arising of suffering in someone who is happy. To him, this was a disease that needed to be eliminated. The Buddha pressed further, completely abandoning and ending perception of nothingness, and attained the neither perception nor non-perception concentration. Although he knew this was peace, initially, he did not feel inspired, peaceful, or liberated in this jhana. He turned to contemplate the dangers of nothingness until he fully realized these dangers, and then the feelings of inspiration, peace, and liberation in the neither perception nor non-perception concentration arose within him. After some time dwelling in this state, perceptions tied to nothingness reemerged, like suffering arising in someone who is happy. To him, this was a disease that needed to be eradicated. Then, the Buddha advanced further, completely abandoning the neither perception nor non-perception concentration, and attaining the cessation of perception and feeling. Though he knew this was peace, initially, upon achieving this jhana, he did not feel inspired, settled, or liberated. He contemplated the dangers of neither perception nor non-perception concentration until he clearly saw the fullness of those dangers, and he savored the benefits of cessation perception and feeling with mind inspired, settled, and liberated. The Buddha saw that this was peace, true peace. After some time dwelling in the cessation of perception and feeling, with wisdom, he perceived that all defilements had been utterly destroyed. After mastering the forward and reverse order of attaining, dwelling in, and emerging from these 9 meditative states with proficiency, the Buddha proclaimed that he had attained supreme perfect enlightenment. The foregoing describes the path of cultivating and realizing the 9 meditative states of the Buddha. It is a continuous journey of departure, relentlessly abandoning what has been attained, perpetually awakening, and recognizing that the meditative states, from the first jhana to neither perception nor non-perception, are phenomena born of causes and conditions, fabricated, impermanent, and fraught with suffering, incessantly giving rise to an urgent aspiration for true liberation. This urgency is essential to avoid attachment and clinging to meditative states. It is the strength to relinquish all fabricated phenomena. This urgency is itself the presence of wisdom, the capacity to see things as they truly are. From the Buddha's experience, we can glean an invaluable lesson. If a practitioner consistently maintains mindfulness and clear comprehension of the true nature of conditioned phenomena, selfless, impermanent, and suffering, they will swiftly traverse the various meditative states, easily emerge from them, and direct themselves toward the cessation of perception and feeling, where all defilements will be utterly eradicated, and all feelings of pleasure and pain, along with the perceptions leading to them, will be completely stilled. We can also extract another marvelous lesson. The essence of meditation practice lies in abiding in mindfulness of the suffering, impermanence, and selflessness of all phenomena to relinquish craving and attachment. Liberation from suffering manifests directly in that relinquishment. Abandonment follows immediately upon clearly perceiving the dangers of what binds us, fettering our minds. The attainment of a higher meditative state comes right after abandoning the current one. Dwelling in the attained state results from deeply discerning the dangers of the state just left behind. Thus, the path to liberation involves undergoing processes of clearly seeing the impermanence, danger, and suffering in all phenomena, and abandoning what is fabricated and conditioned. The practitioner, tireless, takes steps imbued with awakening, inspiration, peace, and liberation. This is the authentic path of meditation in Buddhism. Any deviation is the path of outsiders. Abandonment or letting go in Buddhist meditation is synonymous with dwelling in mindfulness and clear comprehension, and with the peace and liberation of meditation. In other words, letting go entails releasing craving and attachment to all fabricated and conditioned phenomena. If anyone advocates maintaining an empty mind or no mind in Buddhist meditation practice, it must be understood that an empty mind is precisely mindfulness and clear comprehension, free from all worldly craving and attachment. A practitioner of Buddhist meditation does not idly await something from breathing techniques, sitting postures, or any cultivation method, except the subduing of their own deluded mind. We must return to the Buddha's path of meditation. Truth and the path to truth are illuminated only beneath the Bodhi tree, nowhere else. There, truth shines once and forever. That is the refuge for us in learning, understanding, and practicing the Dharma. It is also the refuge of those who call themselves Buddhists, regardless of where they are on earth. There, the radiance of dependent origination and the 4 foundations of mindfulness shines brilliantly, and that radiance persists of the dividing line between samsara and liberation, between a right path and the wrong path. Turning toward dependent origination and the 4 foundations of mindfulness is to illuminate the Buddha's teachings in this life. Let us heed the Buddha's following teaching on the conditions under which the sublime Dharma endures or fades. Monks, because the 4 foundations of mindfulness are not cultivated and not fully developed after the Tathagata's passing, the sublime Dharma does not last long. Because the 4 foundations of mindfulness are cultivated and fully developed, monks, after the Tathagata's passing, the sublime Dharma lasts long. Thus far, we arrive at a clear conclusion. The primary concern for a thriving Sangha and a flourishing or enduring Buddhism is the study of the Buddhist teachings and the practice of morality, concentration, and wisdom by both monastic and lay Buddhists. All other matters are secondary. An era of a thriving Buddhist society, such as during King Asoka's reign, must be one where the Buddhist masses extensively study and practice the teachings, particularly meditation, the four foundations of mindfulness. Only when meditation centers flourish more robustly than other domains labeled as faith within Buddhism can we hold optimistic confidence that Buddhism is thriving or progressing toward thriving. Should we transform the practice of the four foundations of mindfulness into the morning or evening practice for monastics, and into the practice replacing the Pure Land practice for lay Buddhists, so that the sublime Dharma may endure longer in this world? That is the question Buddhists must ponder deeply after comprehending the teachings of the four foundations of mindfulness.